Kingdom wealth is never just about you. True prosperity leaves a legacy that impacts generations. This is the 7th and final video on the 7 laws of biblical wealth. If you've missed out on the rest of the series, you can go back and find all of them on my channel. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I've also done a very quick video that covers all 7 in one go. These are the deep dive videos that expand the topic and give you practical and useful insights into how to make the most of what God's word says for you and your family. In this video, we're going to spend a little bit of time looking at scriptures and verses that underpin the truth of generational legacy and wealth. We're going to give you some practical tips and hints of things that you can do to ensure that that legacy grows and builds. And we're going to help you make sure that you are living with a generational mindset because God commands us to do it. So section 1, why does generational wealth even matter? What difference does it really make? Well, in Proverbs chapter 13, verse 22, it says that a good man leaves an inheritance to his children and to his children's children. The next part of that verse says, but the wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous. Those two verses are connected. We always tend to quote them separately. We love quoting the generational wealth verse, and we love quoting that the wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous. And yet the two are actually in the same verse. They're connected. What it is saying is that if Christians are not thinking generationally, if they are not planning to leave an inheritance to their children, that wealth will get stored up and given to righteous people who are planning generationally. It's not saying that the wealth of the world is stored up for Christians. That's not what it is saying. And people have incorrectly used that to go and do the lottery and things and say, well, the wealth of the wicked is being stored up for me, and so I'm going to win the jackpot and the rollover. That is not what the verse is saying. It is saying that if you are not thinking as a generational, legacy-leaving, wealth-building Christian, what money you have will get taken and it will get given to the people who are thinking generationally, because those people are righteous. We could say that wealth with no legacy is just wasted stewardship. It's part of God's design for wealth to flow generationally, for legacy and for impact. It's not to enable your future generations to be lazy or to be slack-handed. It's to enable them to continue furthering the work of the gospel. It's to enable them to continue expanding and growing for future generations as well. The contrast with this is just the world's view of consumption, that it's unnecessary to leave money behind for people, or that it's important for them to work hard for it and struggle because you struggled. That's a poverty mentality, and it's not thinking bigger picture. It is godly and biblical to set your children up for success in the future. And if you train a child in the way that they should go, they will not depart from it. So you teach them how to be diligent and excellent and have wisdom in the way that they handle wealth to continue building it for their future generations. It's a godly characteristic that builds and thinks long term. Okay, so building wealth that outlives you is important and it's biblical. It says in Deuteronomy chapter 8, verse 18, that it's God who's given us the power to create wealth in order that he would establish his covenant with us. Covenants, typically when God is talking about them, are not just for one generation. The covenants that God created were multi-generation or even everlasting. God talks multiple times in the Bible about his everlasting promise, his everlasting covenant of faithfulness. We can see this really clearly with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Generational wealth that impacted the nations. It says that Isaac was the envy of the Philistines. It says that Isaac grew in wealth and possessions until he was exceedingly wealthy with exceeding possessions. It's talking about generational wealth that wasn't just for the consumption of the individual. I can say it like this: if it dies with you, it wasn't kingdom-based, because kingdom-based wealth thinks multi-generationally. So I want to give you some practical keys now to think about generational wealth. And the first one should be obvious. It is to think beyond yourself. Plan for your children and your grandchildren. Even if you're not married and don't have children currently, or perhaps it is not your plan to ever have children, you can still think multi-generationally. You can be thinking about the next generation behind you of other children, aunts, uncles, nephews, and nieces. You can be thinking about the generations to come. What is the legacy that you want to leave behind for them? The second practical point, if you have children, is to teach them. And I mentioned this, didn't I? That when you train a child in the way they should go, they won't depart from it. And that training can start from a very young age. Children do not need to practice spending money. That comes very easily. I wouldn't even talk about it or consider about having spending money or pocket money. Talk to them about having wealth and building resource. I have 2 children. For one of them, the saving and the diligence comes very easily. For the other, it's much easier for them to spend money and plan the spending. We have done the same amount of work with both of our children, but nature and nurture have an impact on this. So you need to train them. You need to work with them. They need practice. And you can do that in really simple, easy to understand ways. When money comes in, sit down with them and talk about it. Talk about your budget with your children from a young age. Explain to them why it's important to have a mission for your money before it arrives. Pass on biblical money principles. Maybe you want to sit down and watch these videos with the children, or jump on the Biblical Financial Masterclass and start talking with your children about what you're learning. It may well be boring for them at this stage, but it is critical that they learn from your mistakes and that they learn new skills so that they never make those mistakes at all. The third practical key here is to learn to invest in assets, not liabilities, and you don't need to practice spending. You need to think about land, businesses, intellectual property. Think about kingdom impact and vehicles to achieve that. Either growing businesses or buying businesses. Thinking about assets that put money into your pocket, not assets that take money out of your pocket. And the fourth practical point is to document your legacy. Think about having a will or a trust. Think about succession planning and structures that protect, preserve, and multiply the wealth that you have created. You need to put structures in place so that if your children are very good at handling money, they can continue being. If your children are very bad at handling money, they are protected from the risk that it will ruin and destroy them. Let's talk very quickly about some mindsets that can block and hinder legacy building. The first one is the balance between short-term greed and long-term stewardship. Short-term greed will consume resources rather than investing and preserving resources for the future. Short-term greed will also look around and see that there isn't enough, where long-term stewardship will see what you have and find a way to multiply and grow what is there. Often that comes by living below your means, making difficult choices today for the benefit of future you and future generations. Short-termism will kill legacy. Another mindset that will block legacy is ownership versus stewardship. Saying, it's mine, I've worked hard for this, I deserve it. That sort of language will kill any dreams of legacy. Thinking of long-term stewardship as I am the manager of God's resources will start to give you a long-term perspective. Your lens of life will grow and you'll start to think multi-generationally and about the future. Another thing that will change your mindset is a refusal to teach and train your children, like I've said, or future generations. Maybe that comes down to pride. Maybe that comes down to fear of lack of knowledge. Again, I've created as many resources as I can, and I'm going to continue creating these resources to help and enable you and your children. Do not get trapped in fear or pride that will block you from helping them. It will not work. And the final one is one that a lot of Christians have gotten caught up with, and that is abandoning stewardship because Jesus is coming soon. He absolutely is coming soon. He is our soon and coming King, but he still expects us to be faithful and diligent stewards while we wait for him. You only need to read Luke 16, Luke 19, Matthew 25 to see that when the master returned, he was pleased with the ones who had been diligent while he was away. The one who was wicked and lazy and buried what they had and didn't think long term was turned away, their assets were removed from them, and they were called wicked and lazy. The ones who stewarded well, who planned long term and were diligent in the absence of the master, those were the ones that heard, "Well done, good and faithful." I want to speak to generationally minded kingdom entrepreneurs now. And this is also applicable to you if you are an employee. But if you run or own your own business, I want to speak directly to your heart. Your business can outlive and outlast you if you structure it and plan it correctly. Maybe you want to build businesses and sell them. Again, that is absolutely fine. But what you do with the money that you receive at the point of sale can outlive and outlast you if you continue to plan effectively. I want to encourage you as a kingdom-driven, faith-driven entrepreneur to create kingdom institutions that honor God and outlive you. Think missionally, think legacy. Start to drive your mind towards the future, beyond where you currently are. I want to impact the finances of 1 million Christians by 2030. I want to impact and influence Christian businesses so they can grow and scale with God at the center of them. That work is going to outlive and outlast me, hopefully by generations. You need to start thinking the same way because that's how the Bible tells us to live. Think about ministries, hospitals, schools, foundations, orphanages, museums. All of these buildings, libraries also, they have been built with generations in mind. It's not about the pride of having your name on a building that everybody goes to. It's about thinking about future generations and the legacies that are created as a result of the things that you have put in place. Perhaps you are not thinking as grand as leaving a building behind, but you can invest in orphanages. You can invest in communities and startups and organizations that are helping generationally. A really easy way to think about this is that legacy is impact multiplied over time. That is what the Bible talks about and what God is looking for. Impact multiplied across time. So in conclusion, remember that kingdom wealth is generational. It's not short term. It is not filled with pride or fear. It is not risk off. It is risk on without recklessness. If you are thinking generationally, your risk time horizon expands infinitely. So you can start to take steps and start to take measures that others would be more short-term about. It's not about consuming everything you have. It's about reinvesting what you have to build your business with others in mind. I want to encourage you to write down one step that you need to take. Maybe it's that you need to create a will. Maybe you want to create a trust or a structure for succession planning. Maybe you want to write a long-term goal and you need a vision planner to help you. I have a free one that you can download. Maybe you need to get better at controlling short-term spending and financial controls. I've got a biblically based budget planner that you can download completely for free, and you can start to use it today in order to help you with your wealth. I hope you have enjoyed this video and the entire series of the 7 laws of biblical wealth. I trust that you have got something practical and useful and spiritually enriching out of it. Please do like, comment, and subscribe, and share this with a friend or a family member. I would love for you to get as much out of this as possible and to start living and giving as if God was the owner and you were the steward, and see how his laws of biblical wealth can grow and multiply your finances across time. I look forward to seeing you on the next video.